What's up, everybody? This is Christian, and I am one of the hosts of the Everything in Between podcast, which you are about to listen to the 4th official episode of. First off, I just want to say thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the opportunity to come into your home, to spend some time together. We really appreciate the support and look forward to doing more episodes of this in the future. Thank you so very much. We really do appreciate it. Secondly, I just want to add there's some explicit language in this episode, so this is your viewer discretion advised warning before we get started. And lastly, if you are listening, we would love to know what you think of the podcast. We'd also love to hear your input and your thoughts. If you have a topic that you'd like us to discuss or something that you think would be interesting for us to talk about, feel free to email us at teibpod@gmail.com. We would love to hear your thoughts. With all of that said, here is the 4th official episode of the Everything in Between podcast. Hope you enjoy. Well, welcome to the Everything in Between podcast. My name is Christian, and I am here with my co-host, Shay.
How we doing?
And we've got a special guest again with us tonight, a really close person, not only to my heart, but my family's heart in general. Just somebody that's really poured into my life. This is Grant Sullivan, and he is, just a class act guy that I've had the opportunity of getting to know as I've been married, as well as early in dating. Pretty much somebody that was, my now wife, but somebody that you had a heavy hand in raising, and so we've had so many good conversations, like just over coffee and donuts and over meals at Lambert's and things like that. And so it's been a really cool experience just to get to know you. And so I'm excited we have you on, and just have the opportunity to talk with you.
Oh, yeah. So. Excited to be a part of this and appreciate the invitation for the conversation. And always love those coffee times, and you can't go wrong with Lambert's. We need to. Plus, this dude took me the first time in my life to my first Buc-ee's. So I will forever be thankful for that. My life has never been the same since, and
it's a life-changing experience.
It was a life-changing experience.
Can I make a hot take? You overhyped Buc-ee's. I was not impressed.
Hey, that's fair. Okay, I also took. We took you, right,
to Buc-ee's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I don't know why I couldn't remember if we did. Yeah, maybe that was. Yeah, I don't know. I love it. I love it.
It was cool.
Enjoy the heck out of it.
Maybe I just didn't fully embrace it.
And that's fair.
It's all about the yogurt pretzels, is all I'm saying, though.
You know what?
Maybe that's my mistake. He didn't tell me about yogurt pretzels.
And I didn't honestly know this at the time whenever I took both of you, but the fudge, dude, oh my gosh.
I'm from Northern Michigan, though. We're all about the fudge.
Dude, man. I should have I'm telling you, it is heavenly. I mean, and it's not that thing where they do the barbecue like they do, where they cut the barbecue up and they're like, whatever they do, the, hot brisket on the board,
right,
or whatever. Yeah. But it's good. It's good. And it's the beef jerky for me. I don't know. I'm like, especially when we drive down there, like we would go down and like go to the aquarium and like take Dylan and like do the whole aquarium thing. And then like,
that aquarium was cool.
The aquarium's sweet too. But then go to Buc-ee's, get some jerky, and then drive home and just nibble on jerky the whole. Dude, it's just like, it's the classic like road trip snack, and I don't know, it's just like.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that jerky for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It's that's. Yeah.
And you're right. They have that barbecue station right in the middle. It's kind of like it's almost like an altar, right? I mean, they're sacrificing the bull right there.
They have to declare it too. The hot brisket on the board. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just calls out to you. I mean, it's liturgy. It's liturgy actually in action right there. God is speaking through Buc-ee's. I'm just saying.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Amen to that. I feel Jesus in the room already. So.
Oh man.
Oh, all right. Well, now that they've dealt with our ridiculous conversation,
Yeah,
Grant,
and maybe ridiculous, but we talk. As I understand, the idea behind this is finding those moments in between in just common everyday life. And so, as a joke and segue in, there was a little bit of design as I was thinking, and we were talking and just joking around. It was like, hey, this actually fits in of how you can find strange blessings in places that are shared experiences, and they connect us together. What's more about shared experience than the family of God that eats together and enjoys these things together, walks together. So, not to wax too theological right off the bat after we said all those kinds of ridiculous statements about Buc-ee's, but yeah, it's there. It's there. And I don't know that we always open our eyes to see in those things the way in which the Spirit moves.
Yeah. I agree. Like that, like you said, that common shared experience it's interesting how it changes our perspective on a person in general. How it changes how we look at them, how we experience them, how we feel about them, and the deeper you go in that relationship, in those experiences, what that looks like in the nature of God and who we see him as in our lives.
I mean, those shared experiences, that's how you build trust with people. That's how you get to feel like you actually know somebody. I mean, to a lesser extent, I use it in work. Like, you try to find a place where you can find some common ground, and that's where you start to develop as friends, or what it might be, colleagues. That's your basis for comfort, for trust.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Well, geez, we just dove right in, but I love it. Yeah, so let's dig into that a little bit too. I want to get to know. I want people to get to know you a little bit, Grant, too. So maybe give us some background.
Okay. Yeah.
A little bit to who you are, because I think that's going to maybe explain some of what you just said pretty quickly. So yeah, tell us a little more about you. Maybe you can even go into some of the backstory of how we met, and then but you can even go before that. Go tell us who you are. Tell us about some of the things you've experienced, and how it got you here.
Oh wow, yeah. So, rough, quick version of my life is, I didn't really, as they say, grow up in church very regularly. So I'm more of after starting college years, 18 plus, before I really took church as far as a serious weekly dedicated type attendance experience. So before that, I was around the kind of the ruffians, you could say. I mean, we grew up along the Arkansas River in Leonard, Oklahoma, just outside of Tulsa area and Bigsby, but a very small spot in the road called Leonard, and I
don't even think I know where Leonard is.
Yeah. I mean, it's on its way between Bigsby and Haskell, in the middle of nothing, But what that did was, I think that the importance for this podcast, so people get to know me, is that forced some things where you really you didn't have the luxury of just ignoring people, because there was my 8th grade graduating class, there were 4 of us. There was me and 3 girls. So that's it,
Jeez.
So yeah, the whole school system.
What you're saying is you had to pick of the litter, right?
It was the pick
odds
of the
are
litter.
in his favor.
The odds were way in my favor in that situation, and yet still I found a way to mess it up most of the time because I was an 8th grade boy. But
fair enough.
All jokes aside, like 100 kids from kindergarten through 8th grade or something like that, somewhere in that range. And I thought it was huge when I then went into Bigsby High School at, I think my graduating class as a senior was like 178. Now I think it's like 600 and something here. But anyway, definitely 500 plus. But that was a huge transition for me. So there's a lot of my early development that is learning. First of all, learning how to be friends with people, because you really didn't have the luxury of saying you could just say, oh, I don't like that person. You go, well, that was the only person in your class with you, so figure it out. Or in my case, you didn't even have a guy friend that was in your class, so you had to like the guys that were younger than you. I mean, get along with them.
You were either 0 or 100. There was no in between.
that teaches you, but that taught me some things that I carry to this day about learning how to connect with people. And find ways, and kind of said earlier, but find the commonalities that you have, rather than focusing on the differences. So I think today, when I look at the world as a whole, that really, it sometimes saddens me, because we seem to, only want people who are just like us and think just like us and have the same vantage point as we do, and that's all we want to listen to. And so it becomes kind of echo chamber, sometimes is used a term, and I don't understand that, probably a great deal because of my early development, where I didn't have the luxury of that. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. But then, transitioning later into life, as I kind of went through went from being the guy who is, maybe drinking a little beer too much early in life, before I should have been, and hanging out with rough people and stuff like that. I went into kind of what I often refer to as my super Christian phase, and that happens a lot. And I'm not being derogatory towards it. It's that phase where you think, I'm new to the faith. I'm on fire for God. I'm never doing X, Y, Z ever again. I'm not going to touch this, that, or anything that even looks or smells like it. And I didn't mean that like to try to be a holier than thou. I'm separating myself from it, And so then I went through that phase where it's like I went from people of all walks of life and all kinds of backgrounds, and parents that weren't even there half the time. They themselves are off at the dive bars and wherever they are for the whole weekend, to people who only talk about Jesus.
Right.
Only in a certain way all the time. And so that was really, I feel like I'm a strange anomaly in that regard, but I'm sure I'm like a lot of people that God was working on me in very, very different ways, from almost the extremes of both ends of the spectrum. Now today, I feel like I'm a little more back to like I was when I was young, but with the leading of God in my life. And so I don't get it right all the time, but I definitely have opened myself up to all walks of life again. I have shared experience in full-time ministry for a long time, but then kind of transitioned out of that phase. And I found some of my best ministry to be not in the vocational realm, but in the just daily listening to people and being with people and hearing people that sometimes won't walk through the door of a church building, but they are in some ways at least interested in God.
Yeah.
Even if they don't know how to speak that. Like, I've had people who tell me they're not even believers, but then they still want me to like pray for their mom or something, and because their mom's going through a terrible time in surgery. I've literally had those conversations, and it's fascinating to me. But
that's interesting. And I think that's something that, like, I know personally I needed to hear, because I've really struggled with that aspect of like trying to understand life after, like you said, vocational ministry.
Yeah.
And what that looks like, how that ebbs and flows, and how that changes me as a person, especially in relationship to him. Because I know I've struggled with, I know I've struggled heavily with how to navigate that. And not even so much how to navigate it as much as it is how to do it. I know that probably sounds like childish, but
Not at all.
I know, I don't know. I've really had a hard time with that since I stepped away from ministry. And I'll say this too. I've really enjoyed not being in vocational ministry and being able to not be the guy. I've said that 1,000 times talking with Shay, like, and I think I probably said it with you too. Like, it's nice to not be the guy. It's nice to not have that weight on your shoulders and still feel like you get to worship God because you like worshiping God.
I think
Does that make sense?
Yeah, we've said a couple of times that like where I would think it'd be the hardest part and where I couldn't have never been in like a full-time position as like a pastor or even like a worship director of like your faith intermingles with your profession far too much that it's just where you make that division of like job versus your actual walk with God.
Yeah.
Like how incredibly hard and stressful that would be and where that puts you in a mental space.
Yeah. Yeah. I had somebody pour into my life, and I can't remember if I've mentioned this or not in like on the podcast, but I had somebody speak into my life prophetically, and they said, what was the words that they used? He said, God wants to take you deeper, but you're going to have to be willing to go deeper. And this was after I was out of vocational ministry. And I remember that scared the hell out of me. I mean, it's because I was like, well, I thought things were okay now, but apparently not. And not that what he was implying was negative connotation, but when you hear that, especially when you've been through any sort of church hurt or any sort of church trauma, that's a terrifying statement to hear from somebody, because you're like, you're telling me this is going to get worse. And it wasn't at all. I mean, and I've learned that, but it wasn't at all what he was trying to say, nor has it been what's happened. In fact, I've seen my relationship with God grow in a way that I'm not sure I fully understand. And I think that's really cool. Because I feel like it's the I believe, help my unbelief statement. I find myself growing in my faith, and I'm like, Lord, like I feel like I understand a little bit more, and I want to go deeper than that. But I'm still struggling with this idea of the human condition and how that plays a factor into my entire life. So.
I mean, it's your favorite scene or whatever from the Bible or The Chosen, whichever one you want to look at. But you're talking about Simon stepping out of the boat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the picture that I have in my head when you're saying like God wants to take you further, take you deeper. It's like step out of the boat. Or everybody's like not favorite, but a good go-to analogy of ships weren't meant to be left in the harbor. Like your safe space, like you're never going to grow. And I mean, that's where you grow, as you step out in faith into those deeper waters or out of the boat and show God that you truly trust him and that you're not trying to hold on to the boat, your safe space.
Yeah. Well, and when you said that too, thinking about even the Peter analogy of when he steps out of the, have you watched The Chosen, Grant? I think we've talked about it at least.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm just thinking about that moment. This has nothing to do with The Chosen, but just that moment when Peter sinks.
Right.
And I don't know that we think a lot about what he experienced in that moment, or what he may, we think about like what he was missing and the fact that he was sinking. It was like, why are you, the Son of God is standing in front of you on walking on water. You're walking on him, and you really have the thought to not believe in him right in that moment. And it's almost stupid to think that he did. And then we have this experience of life, but then you go, okay, well, what did he experience in that moment too when Jesus pulled him out? And the faith that he was able to have because he sank. And so there's like this, I don't even know what to call it, this weird I don't know, I guess maybe an entendre of some sort where you have this experience of understanding that he is faithful, but he has to let me fall, or maybe I have to let go and experience what he experienced on the cross for a split moment in order to then fully understand that he is faithful. And how that is so, I mean, again, I believe, Lord, but help my unbelief. Like, I know I struggle with that on a consistent basis.
That narrative of Peter just, it screams out the clumsiness of the faith walk, and how, we want to, I feel like sometimes we want to look at it like when you work out and you just keep getting stronger, just keep doing it and keep building lean muscle and trimming fat, and if I needed to pump out so many sit-ups or push-ups after I've trained for a while, I know I can do it. I mean, soldiers train that way all the time. They know exactly what they can do. They know what their body can do. They can do it at any moment. As long as it's a healthy body, they can do it at any moment. Just tell them to do it and they can do it. I know there's analogy. I know Paul writes about, the exercising of the body and connection and all of that. So there are some passages that allude to that kind of a faith. But the reality of the actual stories of humans that we love to read about in Hebrews chapter 11 is that their life was very brief moments of stuff where you go, wow, and surrounded by a whole lot of messiness.
Yeah.
It's not the opposite. It's not like all this amazing, faithful moments with just a few little bad, moments of weakness. And that is powerful to me. And I feel like Peter represents that. You can be extremely close to Jesus. You can have been his disciple daily in the Word. You could be right there, and I say in the Word, because he was with the Word, but for us, like daily in it, living it, being it. And you can do these things that people are like, man, I'd never have that kind of faith. And then almost instantaneously, we can just like lose sight with him right there. He hasn't gone away. He's not changed. We are the ones that change. But isn't that the Exodus story in a nutshell? I mean, they saw everything done for them. They saw waters parted. They saw dry ground. They saw food coming to them that they were like, well, I don't even know what it is. And they're like, yeah, that's what we're going to name it, manna. What is it? I don't know. We can't come up with a better name, so go get some what is it? But this bread, that comes down from heaven, and Jesus illusion, right? Tip to him. But
it's like they were planning that or something.
Bethlehem is what I say every year at Christmas. Don't call it Bethlehem. It's Bethlehem. It's the house of bread. Literally, it translates as house of bread. But so we've got this. But then, what is the majority of the story of Exodus? It's the people bitching. I mean, they get everything from God, and then they're like, we're sick of this, and we want some meat, and
then you sit there and then they sit there and wonder why they struggled for 40 years.
Yeah. But the question, are we all that different? And the answer, of course, is not. We are not. So what do we learn through that? We learn that God never moves. God is the one that's always faithful. He's the one that's always immovable. He is there. Jesus is still standing on the water when we're sinking, and he's saying, just reach out. I got you.
I love the moment, again, going back to The Chosen. We talk a lot about The Chosen. That's funny enough. Fine. Like I find myself going back because I'm very visual. And so having those like visual depictions, even if not all of it is quite biblically accurate, I love the connection and the what if, what if that happened? It wouldn't be too far to say that might have happened. But I love the moment, this being one of those moments. I love the moment between Jesus and his mother where she's washing his hair, and they're having this conversation back and forth. Jesus is expressing to Mary how frustrated he is with the fact that he's like, they're not hearing me. I'm telling them, I'm giving them the answers. I'm the answer, and they're not getting it. And he's very, it's very relaxed, Jesus. It's not how I was just expressing myself, but it's very much this, like, I'm telling them and they're not understanding, and I don't know how to help them not even I don't know how to help them, but I'm telling them and they're not understanding.
Yeah.
And she looks at him and she says, you have to understand that they're human. And he stops and lifts up his head out of her lap, and he turns around and looks at her and he says, so am I. And that for me, I think, was such a cool moment, because it almost steals our humanity from us. Of like, he gets it. And if he gets it and he understands it, you have no excuse. You have no reason to make the mistakes. Thus why he came. Thus why he sacrificed. Thus why he did what he did. There is no explanation. There is no way out, because I am the I am, and I understand because I was you. I've been there. I've experienced the pain. I've experienced all of it, much worse than you ever will. And I took it all on a cross because I loved you, because I know your humanity, because I experienced your humanity. And that, like, I love that moment. I remember bawling, because of course I bawl like at 90% of The Chosen, but anyway.
Yeah.
But that moment just got me, because it was like, man, like, he understands it more than even I give him credit for, because I think we so easily go, he's God. He gets it all because he's God. And it's not that. He gets it because he was human.
Yeah.
And that makes it so much more visceral, I think. It makes him so much more visceral in my mind.
Yeah, and I think we have a challenge. So there's this feeling of a need to perform sometimes, like when I preach. That I don't think I'm acting. I really don't. But there are times where afterwards I'm like, why do you go into that preacher voice? You never talk. You never talk like that until you get up in front of the congregation and start to preach.
Yeah,
I probably picked that up in some homiletics course, and
right.
And this is how you do it, and this is your mannerisms and everything. But for some people, the very way in which some people preach is a complete, absolute turnoff, because they've been hurt so bad. And it's not that there's nothing wrong. Let me say, there's nothing wrong if. There can be hypocritical preaching that's just a ploy, but I'm not saying that all people who maybe change their mannerism or speak a little louder or kind of get animated because they're preaching, they're caught up in that. It's a little bit of a rush. Let's be honest. It kind of gets you, but those can be healthy and real. But it can remind certain people of a certain sound, a certain rhythm that for them turned out to be not good. And so I think one of the harder sides of all of this is realizing that there's a number of people who have gone through, like you and me, Christian. We've been in ministry full time. That's how we made our living, to support our families, and then we're not now.
Right.
So in some ways, disillusionment. But for me, that temporarily it led to me not even wanting to attend a church. But that's not where I'm at today. So disillusionment for me is a certain element, a certain aspect that I've set up a wall that I don't ever want to allow myself to be vulnerable to certain things again, in that regard. But there are other people who we're trying to minister to who they're gone. They don't want to walk through a door with anyone that looks, acts, breathes, talks like that preacher who did those horrible things or or in some way manipulated them or their family. And I don't blame them for that. And it's not as easy as just saying, well, they need to get over it and recognize that Jesus is real and those people are bad and not every preacher's bad. And yeah, all those are true. Jesus is amazing. Don't leave him. Second of all, not all preachers are bad just because one does wrong. But can we stop for a moment and quit guilting people and shaming people for the reality that maybe they went through the kinds of things that we don't even know the kinds of things that some people have gone through. We don't even want to talk about in church settings. And so in that moment, where is God? And I think that's why I said, he's right there. He's in the midst of those moments. And sometimes people's experience was just that. It was an illusion. And then something happened where they realized that it was false, it was fake. But Jesus is not. That's at the heart of everything. And he will find you wherever you are, and in ways that we cannot even understand. And we certainly cannot put him in a box and contain him. And so that's the amazing story.
Hang tight for just a second while we hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back. I want to dig into what you were talking about. I think that's really good. And I think there's a lot of people that have been in ministry, not even full time, that have experienced a lot of that same hurt and frustration, and a lot of people that don't know what to do after that's over. Because there's no real ending point. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's not a stop. You just have to learn how to keep going. And so let's dig into that a little bit. I want you to tell our audience, if you want to, that is, a little bit of your story, kind of the backstory of kind of how you got to some of what you were saying. Cause I think that's important to at least understand why you're saying what you're saying.
Like I said, growing up and not really attending a church, I didn't get the experience that, like my wife did. My wife grew up in a Southern Baptist home. Her dad was I shouldn't say was, is a Southern Baptist deacon for many years, was song leader in several churches in and around the Tulsa area, Broken Arrow area, Coweta area. She got the experience of listening to her parents talk about business, church business meetings. Mm. So she got to hear the not so good, the little behind the scene divisiveness stuff, and I know that goes on everywhere, but so she had a different, a more realistic view of church than I did, a more guarded view of church than I did. Since I didn't have any of that, I went in kind of almost blindly, thinking, what better job in the world than I get paid to preach and teach the Bible? Are you kidding me? Why is not everybody doing this? I don't understand why we're having trouble filling pulpits all throughout the world. This is goofy. Please sign me up for that. And then reality sets in that people are mean, and they're not your new member or the person who just came in and doesn't really know better. It's your elders, right. Or maybe not all of them, but because I had good ones too. But it's the people that they are manipulating to gain power because they have their own issues from growing up, and they're good at tricking people. So they get the naive in the church to be behind, and they know what they're doing. And so all that leads to, it's just gross. And I went from not wanting to miss a single service or Bible study or anything, to, yeah, I'm dedicating my life to this, to, this is great. Why are people treating me different now? But okay, I'm getting paid for it. I guess I need to adjust expectations or whatever. To, you mean you were never my friend? You've been trying to ruin my life and my family's life because, I don't know, you're jealous or what. So all of that just to say, like, you just lead yourself into this position where, and so what was the answer? For me, and maybe not you, but maybe some will relate to this. For me, the answer was, well, if I just do more, I'll impress them. Like if I'll just reach more people, or I'll visit more people, or I'll baptize more people, or I'll be having more Bible studies with people, then they'll have no choice but to go, man, Grant's doing a great job. And it didn't matter what I did, how much I tried to do. That was never going to be the fix. But I thought it was, I thought this is the only way. And so I bought into that mentality of, it's all about kind of how much you produce. And that becomes, it's just impossible to keep up that pace forever. And so particularly so when you're not even getting like the people behind you for doing it, or not, by and large, even the people who are too quick to be swayed along the way. So I'd say that's a big part of it. So I bought into the wrong thing, and exhaustion in ministry is a different kind of exhaustion. Busyness in ministry is a different kind of busyness. You're never off. You go to be with your family. In places like Branson, I would go and actually try to take just a weekend off or a few days off and go spend with my family, just completely unplug. And you'd have people just blowing your phone up, like, or telling you when you got back, like, well, the church isn't the same when you're not here. Like, okay, so I can never be gone on any Sunday ever again? What if I die tomorrow? What are y'all going to do?
Right.
Like, I think I'm pretty good, but half the people here don't even like me, and the other of you think that you can't survive without me. Y'all get together and figure it out. Something in the middle is probably something truth to that. I'm neither this great nor this bad, so figure it out. I can't do this for you all. But I don't know, guys. I think that I don't think that's just ministry. I think that's us in general as people. We're
people pleasers.
We are people pleasers. We are grossly connected to accomplishment.
That's a really good way to put it.
So our value to ourselves even becomes, what have I done? What have you done for me lately? Yeah, you won a Super Bowl 2 years ago, but you lost too many games this year. You're gone. So it's not just about ministry. It's a cultural foundational issue. And I think I said in my text that one of the things that really has been hitting on me for some time is this. I'm really drawn to like the Exodus story. You already caught on to that earlier, but this whole like Pharaoh narrative of there's never enough. They need to make more bricks. Like, well, clearly they have too much time on their hands. So let's get taskmasters to make them make more bricks. And so it becomes this idea of you're only worth what you create, what you make.
You're only worth your weight in bricks.
You're only worth your weight in bricks. I think I said this crazy thing like, slavery produces bricks without rest, but God begins with rest and invites us to create from it. It was evening, it was morning the first day. It starts with rest. It starts with Sabbath. And this goes all the way back to Genesis 1. It was evening. It was morning the first day. And we're taught it's morning, get up and produce, and then you can take your rest so that you can get up and produce again. Like really, do you really need that much rest? Can we squeeze 10 hours 12 hours out of you?
So how often do we all sacrifice hours of a day?
Yeah. And it's all to impress and create more and more and more and more and more bricks. Owning Scott's Hamburgers, flip more and more and more and more burgers. It hits us all. But I say that, Genesis 1, you got this chiasm. I don't know how much y'all want me to go into this, but
no, go ahead.
Yeah, so Genesis 1 is actually a Hebrew poem. It's not to be read as a scientific account, just so you know. I mean, I'm not trying to make a theological statement about years of the earth or nothing like that, okay? What I'm flat out saying is it's not a scientific account. It is a poem, flat. And it is a chiastic one, so you got this, this A, B, C, D, D, C, B, A thing going on. And so as you look at the days, like days 1 through 3, you've got this, it says, and God separated. And what did he separate? Well, day 1, he separated the light from the dark. Then he separated the waters, and then he separated, so that you're talking about the heavens and the seas, the sky and the waters. And he separates the land and sea and stuff like that. All of those things coming out. Then days 4, 5, and 6, he begins filling those. By the way, uniquely in that order. So, separated light and dark. Well, then day 4, he fills that light and dark with the sun, moon, and stars, right? Separating the waters, well, then he makes the sea creatures, right? And then separating land and sea creates dry land, and then that's where animals, and then of course us as human come into the poem. But either of you know what right at the heart in verse 14, what it says? Genesis 1:14. Right in the center of this chiasm. And God said, let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs, for seasons, for days, and for years. And the Hebrew word in there is this moad. Moad is sacred times and seasons. That there is a purpose to God's good creation, and there is a sacredness to the times and the seasons. What do we not in a post-agricultural society understand about the seasons? For one thing, artificial light, we don't care whether it's daytime or nighttime. We can work all 24-hour, there are places that are open 24/7, 365 days a year, and nobody even thinks about that anymore. It's expected. You're closed? Bah, I don't care if there's 18 feet of snow and you had a bomb cyclone in Asheville. Open up the doors. I need my bread, stuff like that. And then we've got this mentality that as you look at it, that we are set with these expectations, but we can't really fulfill them. So why wouldn't people constantly feel tense, pressure, anxiety, And so seasonal, let's talk about that just for a brief second. So we don't understand the seasons because we don't understand that the winter is in an agricultural society, primarily it's a downtime to prepare your body and everything, to rest your body for what's coming. And then you got planting season, so you got plowing, you got planting, you got hard labor. Then you got to, you got to toil it and weed it and water it. And finally you begin to get the first fruits. You get to start enjoying it. And the fall season is just like, man, you harvest it and you prepare for the winter when you get to rest. We don't understand any of that. It's go, 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 go year round. And I think this has created a deep issue. And so that expectation of the world has infiltrated the church. And so we run the church as a business model after the world around us and culture around us. We don't run it according to Genesis 1, where Sabbath is important, where sabbaticals matter, where there's seasons to get up and go in the church world, and there should be seasons where you still got to do things, but where you should be able to pull back a little bit. It's not about what's the next big event that I've got to be able to do to wow the people and to get them here.
Or even to kind of use your like winter storm analogy of what can you provide for me? Like the people pounding on the church doors of like, you need to serve me. I need you to fill me with Jesus. That's why I come to church on Sundays.
Yeah.
Because we're takers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that message,
consumer culture.
That message didn't speak to me, so I'm not coming back next week.
Right.
It didn't serve me.
Because every message should be exactly about you and your particular unique need, not the person that's sitting over there or, just went through grief. I don't want to hear sermons about grief. Well, that person over there sure needed it.
Mm-hmm.
Shay, give your example that you always give. I love it. Every time you give it.
It was immediately in my mindset. It was like the thing that always comes back to me, and it's the thing I think about constantly, like the same analogy, like thought process of like, I sit in a pew and listen to our pastor preach, and I have that same thought of, I didn't resonate with that. And I always go back to the church that I grew up in northern Michigan. The head pastor had a member of the congregation come up to him after a sermon and said, "Hey, great sermon, great job. You know that one song that you guys sang beforehand, I really didn't like it." Pastor's response was, "That's okay. It's not for you."
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, great. Grant. I knew he was thinking it, and I'm like, he said it so many times, and it's good every time. But I think I think it resonates. Yeah, it's the same thing, and I think that I think there is a beauty in the fact that people who have a passion to go into ministry full time and be able to give their life to that ministry. There's a beauty in the fact that they get to do what they love and also take care of their family financially in the process. I think there's a beauty in that. But I also think that you're right. It's this corporate idea that our churches should be run the same way as all of our businesses. And to some extent, okay, maybe. Partially. But I also think that, I think there's a business aspect to it.
There is a business aspect to it. And to deny that is to be unrealistic. And that's not really my point.
No. And I wasn't negating that by any means. Yeah.
Yeah. But, and I know you're not, but I think it's good, Christian, that you're bringing out that clarity just in case somebody thinks that's what's being said.
And you said that prior too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just that we let the rhythm of the culture and world dictate to us rather than getting in rhythm with God's creation.
Yeah.
And it's like it's hard to share with someone when your cup's empty.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But when your cup runneth over, I mean, it just I don't even feel the loss because it just outpours from me because God's just filling me up at all times. And some people think that God filling us up is our job to do, when actually what he says is just sit back and let me. But you got to sit back and trust and let me. You can't collect more. What is it? Except for that one day a week when I'm letting you because I know the next day it's going to be Sabbath. But you can't collect more. What is it? Because you're so afraid that I'm not going to give you something more tomorrow. Just trust me. Trust the story. Trust that what I've told you is real and true, that you are of great value, hard stop, and that you come from a place of being filled by God. And he invites you then into tending to his good creation. Pharaoh says, I'll feed you, but only after you do something to perform for me that I need. And I'm really only feeding you and giving you a little bit of rest because it's good for me. Because the more people I have as slaves, the more bricks I get, and the bigger my palaces are. And so this is our major issue in the world. We think more like a Pharaoh. In fact, we want to be run by a Pharaoh. We want to be led by pharaohs, and I don't know what is wrong with us. I have no idea, but we are more comfortable with Pharaoh. It almost sounds like those people who are murmuring. I'll use the word murmuring and griping and complaining this time, but it sounds like those people back in Exodus story all over again.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, I love the analogy and the idea of learning to turn freedom into slavery. When you can learn and understand true, full freedom and submission, which is where in comes the slavery part, when you can learn, I have nothing else to give him but my hallelujah.
Yeah.
Not referencing a Brandon Lake song at all. Anyway, or a couple, but it's that aspect of I have nothing else fit for a king except for a heart singing hallelujah.
Yeah.
It's exactly what that is. I can give him nothing that will mean anything, and so I'm going to give him myself.
Yeah.
And that is still worth nothing, yet he is willing to then give up his life for me. How does that make there is no equation that makes sense in my mind, or that helps to bring understanding to that. It's not supposed to. It never was meant to, because in that situation, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, you know? And I don't think that he ever wanted it to. And that's why I love that idea is recognizing if I can submit myself to him, I'm not truly slave to anything, yet I'm slave to him and all that he is. And in that I find freedom. And if we as a society could learn to understand that, but I think it goes back to what you said too, because you said we desire a Pharaoh.
Yeah.
We desire someone to lead us, and I think we constantly pick the wrong leader. We pick the wrong vice, maybe I should say.
Yeah. Even Israel desired a king, like all the other nations.
Yeah.
You could say they desired their own version of a Pharaoh.
And God gave it to him.
And God gave him. Yeah, gave it to him. And told them beforehand, but let me explain to you what they will do. They will take the very best of your children. They will take the very best of your produce, your harvest. They will take the very best of your life. That's what earthly kings do. They take the very best. It really was intended for us as a blessing from our real king, our only king, which is the Lord God Almighty. And yet we're not satisfied with just Christ as king.
Yeah.
And that's me too. I'm not getting overly preachy here and like I've got it all figured out. I'm saying it like straight. I recognize it, and it needs to be called out. I don't know what the solution sometimes is. What I do know is people are not inspired by something that looks impressive because it's been worked over and over and over. I mean, some people may be impressed by that, but I think what really impresses people is when they see lives that they thought no way could ever be changed or redeemed, and they see magnificent, incredible change, like just where that person is just different. and they may still cuss and carry on and drink, but they're just different, and everyone knows it. They see it.
Shay raising his hand.
No, yeah. I mean, hey, they can't see me because this is all audio, but here I am, bearded, Harley riding, crazy man for Jesus, I guess. I don't know.
And I think that's the difference. That when you were saying that, I think the thing that came to mind was, I think that's the difference between a King Saul and a King David.
Yeah.
I think that's the main difference is humility. Because I think we see that, at least with David, and I think we get a good idea of Saul's mentality and his personality, via the story in 1st and 2nd Samuel. But I think that when you're able to see the humbleness, the humility that David has of recognizing his brokenness, and I think that is exactly why God calls him a man after his own heart, because it was humility. Cause they both made massive, massive mistakes. Both of them.
Yeah, you could make an argument. I'm not saying this is truthful. I'm just saying I could argue and debate with you on whether David actually had more grievous sins.
Oh, I would agree.
Yeah. So why then the big difference? And I think you're nailing it. I mean, it is that in the moments of when he had, I'm going to use old King James Version just for the fun of it here, but when he was told, "Thou art the man," but when you the man, I'm talking about you, David, and he was broken by that. He showed humility. He showed that penitence in his heart, and instead Saul fought for defending his power, and that's, I think, a big difference.
And I think I struggle with the idea a lot when I read 1st and 2nd Samuel of why God would allow Saul to be overtaken by this spirit. But then when I think about it in that perspective, I think it makes more sense. I won't say it makes a lot more sense, but I think it makes more sense. When you realize the lack of humility from the very start.
Yeah.
And how that then caused David to see the error of Saul's ways and attempt to, I think there were many times you can see throughout David's kingship where he attempted to not do the Saul thing. And in the process, still made the wrong decision many times. But you see the contrast between him and Saul. And again, realizing his pride and choosing to humble himself, even in those, because I feel like when I read the Psalms, those were intimate moments between him and God. Whatever he was writing, however he was writing it, a lot of those were intimate moments. He was journaling, he was writing a song, whatever the case may have been. Wow. But he was having this intimate moment a lot of times with God, and he's writing and saying, "God, I am so broken, but you are who you say you are. And I pray that is enough to overtake my sin." On a consistent, almost 150 times.
Yeah, David was raw with God. I mean, he was just, he was willing to be gutted open. And I think that really is a big difference, because so many times we want to project that we've got it all together, and we like to be led. Again, I go back to, we like our pharaohs, we like our charismatic leaders. I mean, there is a reason why people like the Hitlers and stuff like that rose to power. It's because they captivate you. Say what you want. I'm not trying to make him anything less than what he is. I'm saying that we can be duped by that, because the powerful of the voice and of the charisma can get you. But I'm not saying that David didn't have charisma, but he was willing to just be filleted open, so to speak, by God, and and corrected. And that's a huge difference, I think, between him and Saul. And you bring up something that, and that's why I'm like drawn to music, and because I'm drawn to the Psalms, and they're so like gut wrenching at times. They don't preach well. Well, they sure pray well, and they sure speak to the reality of the awfulness of the situations we're in sometimes, and how grief can just grab a hold of us and not let go. The disillusionment we talked about earlier, the number of things, and I think I think that's where God can meet people who in many other ways have given up on the traditional sermon or the Bible study, or they don't, they're not going to read one more self-help book with Bible passages in it, because that's just not going to touch them. But what can touch them is the Spirit moving through the arts, and that's what David did. He moved through the art of poetry.
Yeah, and I think keeping just kind of tying in what you're talking about now, like, and what you were mentioning earlier, I just think there's so many people that we kind of cross off. I'm just thinking about several different people in my mind, and especially in the music world. There was a specific event that has happened over the weekend, or over the last night. That I'm thinking specifically about and there was one specific person in my mind that, I mean, and he always sticks out to me, and it's somebody that I've mentioned on this time before, but on the show before, is Jelly Roll. Like, he's one of those people that I constantly find myself like, every time that man speaks, he just says something so eloquently a lot of times. And granted, he's that kind of person that you've mentioned, that kind of rough and tumble kind of person that's been through it, that's been through the jail scene, that's seen the dark side of the world, and yet he still chooses to say, but my God is bigger and greater. And I mentioned this song before, but it comes back to me when you were even saying that, is the song The Lost. And he says in one of the verses, he says, "I've been known to find my kind of people that ain't at home underneath church steeples. You'd be surprised the places I find Jesus that ain't the regular crowd. I've been down and out. I'm better with the lost than the found. My solid ground is better with the lost than the found." And because again, double entendre there. I think that many, at least the humble ones, many Christians would probably admit how lost and broken they are. And I think I think there's obviously a reference there to people that are not part of the church crowd. I mean, it's very obvious underneath church steeples, but I do find that I think we all, even the people underneath the church steeples, even myself, can find a lot of times that those people that are not part of the church crowd, we tend to find common ground a little bit easier sometimes with them than we do with the people underneath church steeples. I know I keep saying that, but that's just to keep referencing that. I don't know. I love that line.
Back in November, I actually did a funeral for one of my best friends growing up. In fact, Jeremy was one of the guys that I hung around with when down along the Arkansas River in Leonard, and we were lifelong friends. And he passed away from heart failure, but hard fought hallelujah was one of the songs played at his funeral service. And it really speaks to how people of various backgrounds and stuff can come together, and they can be drawn towards God in that moment. Because I mean, we all rode up on Harleys, and it was loud and it was different, and it was open mic session for people to share stories, and some of those were outlandish. He was a fun, wild guy, including some of the things that I shared, but he had a heart for people, and that's because he had Jesus in him, and he had a lot of problems. He had a lot of addictions. He had a lot of Jesus in him too. So, and I think it's just stuff like that. Some songs, like some psalms, they really speak through. But I was going to share, since you brought one up, I really like to share another friend. I guess through the years I've had to bury way too many friends. But several years back, we lost my friend Mark. Actually, Dara, my wife, and I were both friends with him. She went to high school with him, but I was longtime friends with him. Even before I met her, I was already friends with Mark, and met my wife at his house, or his parents' house, to be more specific. So just always had a close connection with them. And when he passed away, it was really hard. So at his funeral, we played "See You on the Other Side" by Ozzy, and just the lyrics there are: leaving, I hate to see you cry; grieving, I hate to say goodbye; dust and ash forever, yeah. Though I know we must be parted, as sure as the stars are in the sky, I'm going to see you when it comes to glory. I'm going to see you on the other side. And I doubt there's many places that I would have preached at where they would even have thought or considered lyrics from Ozzy to have any place in the story of God. But to me, that song speaks, and it speaks to people who won't hear other things, and it can bridge, if nothing else, it can kind of bridge a gap. God can use that to create a bridge to begin a healing and a bringing them closer to Him. Because if you go then and look at like the 34th Psalm and read some of the words there, you're getting very similar type feel. Not exact words, but it's the same kind of like theme that is there about this, that grief is real, it's hard, but there's this hint of hope that is hanging over it all, and that we don't understand. And it's okay. It's okay to question it. It's okay to doubt it. It's okay to not understand it fully. We don't have to have all the right Bible class answers for it to be a reality.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that. I'm sorry for your losses.
Yeah, I'm kind of over it. Me and God have had some strong conversations recently, and I said, hey, like, how about you let up, man? It's really hard. It's changed me, and I'm trying not to let it change me too much. It's made me not want to open up as much to other friends, if that makes sense. And I know that's just psychology, probably. I'm just protection mode. But.
Yeah, but I think that's fair. I mean, you lose somebody close to you like that.
Grief is a very human thing. I think something, again, it's one of those weird things that people are like, you can't find Jesus there. And I'm like, well, you can. The entire story of Harry Potter is the quintessential story of good versus evil. It pretty follows the story of Jesus pretty darn closely if you really make all the parallels. But all that to say, one of the lines from
start to finish, mind you. Like, I'm
Star
with you
Wars.
on that.
It's Star Wars now.
But there's a line in Harry Potter where he's essentially in the afterlife and he meets with Dumbledore, and he says, like, it's something to the effect of, don't grieve the dead, grieve the living. They're the ones that still have to be around. Like, it's such a weird, it doesn't make loss any easier, but to kind of put it in that perspective of, like, if you know that they're now with Jesus in heaven, how awesome, like, do they have it? Like,
right.
They're where we all want to be. Yeah.
I love those. I I've read the first two books, and I need to finish them because
You've
I really
only read the first two Harry Potter books?
I know.
How old
I'm
are
a
you?
disappointment. I know. I'm a disappointment. I understand. I love the movies though, and that was, I mean, I remember watching the first. I think I started reading right about the time like Goblet of Fire came out in theaters, and I never went back to it.
You could be like me, and you could even have the book that's called the Gospel According to Harry Potter. That's actually
got that in
my
our house.
library.
We've got
so there's people like us out here. But I do absolutely see the story of God woven. His truth is truth. It doesn't matter where it comes from.
It transcends all of that.
It does. And it's one of the things that I loved about Fred Craddock. Craddock was a believer in the inductive approach to teaching and sermon, which was fascinating, that you don't tell people what to believe. You lead them on a journey of discovery. And so deductive approach to teaching is, X, Y, and Z is truth. Inductive approach is to create kind of an itch, and the person's like, I'm interested in it. And finally, at the end, you don't even have to, if it's done well, you don't even have to actually tell them the answer. They just go, light bulb, ding, and you see it in their eyes, and it just comes to reality. And it's not easy always, and there's versions of it where it's somewhat deductive and inductive and in the process, but not to go too deep into all that. But Craddock was, and Thomas Long, but Craddock in specific was, he wrote a book called Overhearing the Gospel, and he talks about in that how you could even, like, for instance, be sitting on a bench, a sidewalk bench in a park, and what are you going to hear in a conversation that two people that are walking by? Well, at first you're just going to hear them off in a distance. You may be only picking up part of what they say. You may even not even be paying attention because you're trying not to eavesdrop, and all that. But as they come closer, you know more about what they're saying, whether you mean to or not. And then they pass on by and you're getting less and less. Well, he talks about that and uses that analogy to talk about how the Spirit of God is always like, it's those two people walking by us every day while we're sitting on the park bench, or while we're eating at McDonald's, or whatever, or we're driving to work and we're cussing out the guy that cut us off. I mean, the Spirit is moving and showing himself all around us. And we don't even know sometimes the gotcha that God is doing on us until it's already almost like there and done. So He will never stop messing with you. God will never stop messing with you.
Yeah.
Because He wants you. He wants you to see Him. He'll do what He can to get a hold of you. What is it that He told Saul of Tarsus? We know him as the Apostle Paul. Hey, you getting tired of kicking against the goads there, buddy? You getting tired of getting prodded in a certain direction? You getting worn out with that yet? And so if we're not with Him, He's gonna be kind of poking at us and trying to get our attention.
I like what you said about the Holy Spirit being kind of in every moment, kind of like moving around us almost. And it reminded me of another song. It's an older song by Chris Rice called "Face of Christ." Do you either of you remember this song? Or you listen to this song? One of my favorite songs of all time. The verse into the chorus, I love this song. He says, he shares a room outside with a dozen other guys, and the only roof he knows is that sometimes starry skies. A tattered sleeping bag and a concrete slab is his bed, and it's cold out, and it's too cold to talk tonight. So I just sit with him instead and think, how did I find myself in a better place? I can't look down on the frown on the other guy's face, because when I stoop down low, look him square in the eye, I get a funny feeling I just might be dealing with the face of Christ.
Wow.
And I love that, because that in my mind is exactly, the Holy Spirit shows up and He allows. I feel like it's a beautiful way to think of it. Like, again, thinking of that Trinity and how they all cohesively work together. Like, the Holy Spirit steps in and He allows Jesus to take over. And I think that that's the beauty of that is when he steps in and he shows up, when we allow him, when we're listening and we say, and you know, I know for me, one of the things, and it's been more recently too, and we've talked about this before, Shay, and it's something that I've struggled with, but I tend to be the person that will make that crass judgment right off the bat. Like, I always get so upset at people that, like, I don't like the idea of judging people, but then I find myself doing it all the time. And I've noticed, it's those moments in my mind where you stop and you go, okay, I'm not going to assume what I want to assume. I'm going to just give them the benefit of the doubt. It's like the Ted Lasso. I'm going to, how does he say it? Remind me.
It's now I'm going to get it all mixed up because I was thinking
I'm going to be curious, not judgmental. That's what it is. Curious, not judgmental. That's how he always says it, is rather than judging, I'm going to be curious and say, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe there's a good reason and I just can't think of it. And so I've tried to be that person more recently that's more curious rather than judgmental. And I feel like I find that those are those moments that this Holy Spirit jumps in and he's like, well, why don't you go over there and talk with him? Why don't you go over there and say something? I had it happen the other day. We saw some guy and it made me so angry. But I saw him, he was outside. He was on the corner. We were in Tulsa. This was literally just yesterday. We were in Tulsa and there was a guy on the corner that was, I'm not quite sure what he was protesting. And it really doesn't make a difference, but he had an American flag hanging upside down. And it made me very, very mad when I saw that. Just because I know people who have fought for that flag. I have family members who have fought for that flag. And it really, I told Stephanie, we were in the car and I said, I want to go over there and tear that flag down. Tear it off that thing and hang it right side up is what I told her. I said, but I want to take that down and I want to wag my finger at that guy and tell him, what the heck are you doing, in a few less words. And I remember I just stopped and we drove past and I didn't look again. I'm like, I'm not going to look. I'm not going to let it upset me. And I just started to say, okay, I'm going to be curious and not judgmental. What has he been through that might have caused him to get there? And Stephanie kind of started saying those things too. She's like, you have no idea what he went through. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I need to not do that. And I told myself, of course, we never went back by, but I told myself, I was like, if we go back by there, if we just happen to see, I'm going to stop and I'm going to see if I can have a conversation with him. And I don't think we went back by that corner. I didn't intentionally avoid it. But we didn't go back by that corner while he was there, and I think it was definitely a God thing, that because I don't know that I would have been able to control my tongue as much as I really was, as much as in that moment I wanted to.
And there's a wisdom and a time and a place to know what we're ready for. God will lead the right person to talk to that person in the right moment. And that's good to remember too, that it's not, all these battles are not on our shoulders. This is God placing the right person at the right time in the person's path. And sometimes it's not a person. That's why we're also talking about art and music and things of that nature. But yeah, God uses his own art, what we call creation and the beauty of it, also to speak his handiwork, I think is the language of Scripture, right? The wonders of his handiwork.
Shay, you had something there.
To go back to kind of what maybe the point that you were first starting with of like being curious, not judgmental. I think too many put too much emphasis on the flag. Like, the upside down flag isn't inherently I hate this country, I hate this flag. The upside down flag is a symbol of distress. It's somebody saying I'm upset or I'm in trouble.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
It's pointing out something. It's not saying that like they've abandoned the flag, they've abandoned this country. They care enough about it to say, I'm putting up a flag to say I'm in distress, I need help, and I need to bring attention to something.
That's a good point.
And too many people want to look at it as a negative thing. I mean, it is negative, but like not like a hate thing. It's distress. So it is truly a moment that I think more people need to be curious and not judgmental and immediately say they hate this country, they hate that flag, they don't have any respect for it. They do, and that's why that flag is in that position, why they feel they need to put it in that position, because they care enough to point that out. They want something to change. whatever it might be.
They're definitely saying something when they do that, and to an extent.
And I hope they don't take that lightly. Like, that is a pretty significant thing to do.
It's a very significant thing to do, and maybe that would be my only critique of how it's been done. Is I've seen that same or similar type distress signal, if you will, like you're saying, utilized, and I'm like, to the point of, it's like a standing ovation. If you give it all the time, it loses its point. It loses.
They're taking it too lightly.
Yes, and we should never take it. We should never take something like that lightly. But yeah, but then we get into why are we so outraged about an American flag, and so, I don't know, meh about the blood of Christ sometimes. I mean, and I think for me, what I always go back to is remembering too that being a person who believes in honor and respect is a wonderful thing, and I teach that to my kids, and I stand for pledging of allegiance. I sing the national anthem at the football games and all of that. I'm okay. I'm not opposed to that, like morally or something. Like, but I do find that we're sometimes very quick to be angry about those things, and we don't really do the same when it comes to just how Jesus is abused and misused. And we see that a lot, and sometimes that comes again right out of churches and pulpits, where people are using Jesus like a battering ram to hurt people, and so distress signal needs to go up. Don't use Jesus that way.
Yeah,
be very careful.
That's good.
Jesus is not a manipulative tool for us to gain followers and make a lot of money and build big buildings and have big budgets. And Jesus is a savior who gave his life, and he said, "You follow me," which means, it's gonna be kind of tough. You're gonna take up a cross and follow me. So, just thoughts. I don't know.
No, that's good. That's really good. Did you have something to add there, Shay?
No, I was just gonna say it's not just thoughts. I think that was the mic drop moment right there. That was the loud part, kind of quiet.
This is a good conversation. I love this. And yeah, well, thanks for joining us, Grant. This has been fun, and yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation. It's good to hear from somebody much more knowledgeable on the things of the Bible and all of that than me and Shay. So
I felt completely out of my element, like two professionals in front of me, those that got paid to do ministry.
No.
You guys know your way in and out of the Bible far better than I do.
Oh no, I still sit here and we're like talking about stuff, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm quoting or why I'm quoting it. I'm just quoting it.
Well, and you have to bear with me on that. Sometimes with my background, with getting my Master of Divinity and everything, I can sometimes go overly theological. Tried not to do that tonight, but
that's great.
But I think there are elements of that as long as we keep it on the chewable amounts, it really helps people to see. Like, wow, yeah. I mean, I don't know how many years that I didn't look at the fact that it was evening, morning the first day.
That was good. I love that.
I didn't know that we started with rest and Sabbath, and then we got to get up and play, and do what God asked of us, and invited us, like we say, into the story of tending to the good creation. I think wrapping it all up is this idea that we've been on is, if the listener out there is disillusioned, whether that's because you were in church ministry or because you just dealt with things in the church or whatever, God is still there. He's moving in the breeze. The Spirit is moving, and the birds that are chirping are singing God's praise. So when you hear those things, when you experience those things. But we always talk about those beautiful things, and we forget that God also speaks to us in the things that are grotesque, that are ugly, that are gross, that we wouldn't want anything to do with. And the reason why I know that is even though we wear them on our necks and we put them in our ears, and if you're like me, you get a tattoo. But the cross of Christ is awful. I mean, the cross is horrible. It's a horrible way to die. It's insulting. It's humiliating. It's all of those things. And yet when God said, I'm going to paint a picture of really what my love is for you, that's what he chose.
Yeah.
And so don't miss the art that is out there. Don't miss the graffiti and how God can speak through the graffiti on the wall.
Love it.
And you will find God, because he will never give up on you. Hey, thanks for inviting me on this. This was great. I'd love to have a rap session with y'all again anytime.
Yeah. I like that.
Love to have you
idea.
back.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you listening, hanging out with us. Again, Grant, thanks so much for all this. Again, we appreciate your heavy competence in comparison to our lack thereof. We are appreciative of your knowledge, and just allowing the Spirit to speak through you tonight. This is really good. Again, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you listening. If you like what you hear, we would appreciate you giving us a follow, dropping a like, and we will see you next time on the Everything in Between podcast.
Shalom.